Alright, now when I first got this Hitbox, I really wanted to open it up to see how I could mod it, but I couldn't really find a decent tutorial on how to mod this thing, so I ended up contacting hitboxarcade.com, and the creators of the Hitbox are Sean and Dustin Huffer. They emailed me within like a few days of asking them how to open this thing up because I told them I planned on modding it. They were very nice about teaching me how to open this thing up. So I guess I'll share some of that information with all of you guys. Um, First thing I wanted to know was what the fasteners on top here for this plexi were, because I planned on switching the artwork. These are actually snap rivets and they can be undone from the bottom, but I'll get into more of that later when I actually open this thing up. The only thing is, this plexi as it is, the design is screen printed on it. So if you want to install your own artwork, either way, you're going to have to remove this plexi. You'll either have to use this plexi, but wash the design off with acetone, which is just nail polish remover, which I don't recommend because then you can't get this design back unless you print it out on paper or something. Or the other suggestion is removing this plexi, setting it somewhere safe, and then buying a transparent plexi from them directly, but you would have to contact them for it. I can't remember what the going rate is, but they have a fixed price for it. You'll just have to contact them about it if you want to install your own artwork. And I plan on doing that. I don't know if I'm actually going to buy another plexi yet, but if I want to swap the artwork out, I'm going to have to wash the design off of this one if I don't want to buy another plexi. And on the bottom, I actually removed most of the fasteners, but each corner has a rubber foot on it. Now, initially I thought the rubber feet were just glued to the screws that were in the corners, but actually the way this is designed is that these rubber feet are actually the screws. And I thought that was a very cool design. And that's what they ended up telling me. These rubber feet are actually the screws for each corner. So you could actually just remove them with your finger, or if they're too tight on there, you could get a pair of pliers and remove them. But these are very straightforward. You just twist them out. Now the two middle screws, there's one here and one here, and these are not covered with rubber feet. These are actually 2mm Allen screws, and you need a 2mm Allen key to remove these. So I have one right here, and all you have to do is get it in there and just remove it like that. Now, for the sake of time, I removed all the other ones already. But basically, there are 2 Allen screws here, and then four rubber foot screws. I think they're just regular Phillips screws, or they're probably Allen screws, but they're shorter than the middle ones. Then when you open it up, you see something like this. Although, since this is the dual modded version, they have the Aki Shop PS360 Plus PCB, which is very nice because unlike the Toodles multi-console Cthulhu board, you don't need a separate 360 PCB to switch between the PS3 and 360. You just need this. It has the 360 component built right in, so I like that. You can mod the multi-console Cthulhu to run on an Xbox 360, but you need a separate PCB, and you need the IMP chip, I believe, to switch back and forth automatically. You'll notice a few things just on the inside here. First of all, this cable is hot glued to the USB port. This is actually the USB port, I believe, and this is the RJ45 port. So they're using a straight USB cable, which is nice. It's very convenient. I was going to buy a PS2 version of this cable from FocusAttack.com because I wanted to use this on my PS2. And you can do that if you remove this hot glue, but I don't want to do that yet. So I'm going to wait until I can get my hands on a cable like that. They tied it in a knot like this, basically to prevent any shock that this cable gets from hitting the PCB. In other words, if you drop this or something and this cable gets snagged on something and it jerks upward out through the stick, you don't want it ripping this PCB into pieces. It can do that, and then you're down $60 because that's how much this PCB goes for alone. Let alone the SODC control it has on it, which prevents simultaneous pushing of left and right buttons or up and down buttons, and I think that's very convenient. Now you'll see a mess of wires. I assume I didn't actually go through each wire path to see if this is true, but it looks like all the ground wires are daisy chained to the buttons, which is nice because I believe the AkiShop PS360 Plus board only has a few dedicated terminals for ground, and if you want a button to register, even with a signal wire, you'll need it to be grounded. That's the only way it'll read. So, to remove these buttons, by default, the Hitbox comes with Sanwa snap-in buttons, and the snap-in buttons have these little tabs like on the front and the back of each button. So all you have to do is push them in with your fingers and then just push it through the plexi. And when you'll notice that the wires are still connected to it. Make sure you remove those wires. Now they're going to be, even though they have quick disconnects on them, which is very convenient, not only will you have to remember which wires are assigned for that button. I mean, you could put the ground wire on any of these terminals on this micro switch, but you have to remember that the signal wire for this button is only for this button. All that means is remember which signal wire is for this particular button spot. Like, you don't want the signal wire from this button accidentally being on this button, because then this button will become the X button, or that button will be the up button, whatever. Just make sure your wires are in the right places. Now, I could actually switch this one with this one, because ground, all it needs is a ground and a signal wire, but it could be on any part of this micro switch. To remove these, you need to get a pair of pliers and carefully remove it upward. Now, I know the first time I tried removing quick disconnects from my Sanwa buttons, I accidentally jerked it to the side, and it almost ripped this thing off of the micro switch. And if you do that, you'll have to replace the button anyway. And you'll probably have to find a way to get the ripped part of the micro switch out of the quick disconnect before you could even use it again. So just be careful. When you grab the thing with the plier, make sure you get it on both sides of this, and then just lift up with the plier. I don't have pliers on me, so I can't really do it right here, but it's pretty straightforward, and once you've done it the first time, it shouldn't be that hard every other time to use it. If you still in fact, you could probably get it to the point where you don't need pliers to remove the quick disconnect, but if you still do, then that'll be fine, as long as you don't twist it to the side or anything. As for these select, start, and home buttons, it looks like they're also hot glued to the panel, which I believe they are. In that case, if you want to swap those out, you'll have to remove the hot glue and then remove the wires and then just pop these out, because they're also Sanwa buttons. I eventually do plan on swapping these buttons out, because I eventually want to change the colors of them. I want to get different color buttons. But that brings me to these snap-in rivets, these snap rivets. They have a little sharp point on them. It's not that sharp, but it's one of the reasons they're even staying in. Each corner of the top plexi has two snap rivets, if you could see it in there. To remove those, you just take a flathead screwdriver or something flat and sturdy that you can use to push these out through the bottom, and that'll be how you remove the plexi. Unfortunately, to remove the plexi completely, you have to remove all of these buttons. All of these buttons have to come out first. Then you can push these snap rivets out and keep them in a safe place, because you will be having to put them back in. Then once you do that, you should be able to remove the plexi like nothing. And if you have a transparent plexi that you bought from them, or if you remove the design from the plexi that comes with it, then you can install your own artwork. And unfortunately, this is all I can really talk about in the tutorial because, again, I haven't modded it yet, and I don't plan on swapping any of the parts out yet. But hopefully this will help some of you who have a hitbox with this design. And if you are ready to mod it, then this will at least put you in the right direction. So thanks for watching.